Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a character concept. If you're new to drawing or if you've got a little bit of drawing experience, it really helps. If you have some kind of background in fundamental anatomy skills, drawing and anything like that. So it's going to start off in Photoshop here. I've just got a document roughly the size 2522 by 1829. That should be enough. I'm just going to unlock the background so we can do things with it if we have to. And then the first thing I'm going to do is just Control L to bring down the grey level. And you can obviously just fill it with grey, but I like to do this. And we're going to kind of make it feel like a kind of showroom area. So first thing I'm going to do is add a bit of light to the ground. So just get a nice soft brush without any fall off to the size, and I'll just make a kind of patch of light on the ground here and get smaller and smaller like that. Right, and then I'll just go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. You can see it's on its own layer there, so that just creates a nice kind of ground plane. And I'll do a similar thing with black, and I'll just make the edges just a little bit dark. And again, I'll just blur it. Okay, I'll just duplicate the layer because I should have done that separately, merge everything. And then I'll do a little bit of filter gallery and spatter. That helps to blend some of this like that, and it gives us a nice background to work with. So make a new layer. You can always lock this one, just clicking the lock there. And what you want to do is work with a hard brush. So let's just find default hard brush like this with pressure, the pressure size sensitivity, and you can always turn off the opacity. So you see that keeps the size the same, and this one will do opacity as well. So we just want the size to change, and we're going to make a character. So the first thing you want to think about is the pose, the arc that the pose makes. If your pose is just very straight like this, then your character's standing, very static. But if you go for a pose that's more dynamic and think about the plane the feet are going to be on, like this, then you can see a bit more of the side of that foot and a bit more of the top of this foot, the ankles, and then you can start to imagine where the knees would drop to. Right, and think of it as a real life character, how you would perceive something in a 3D space. And we've got the hips here and the chest, this, and a piece of the arm, and maybe the head looking this way like that. Right, this is all quite big, so I'll just use Control T to bring this down in size there. And right now the character isn't really looking interesting, but this is just to get me started. I'll just block this out, and it gives me a starting point. And the cool thing is I can always change how this looks quite easily just by masking this or whatever. Now I should have just done it with masking, so I'm just going to copy all of this image and make a new solid black layer. Go to the mask and then Control V. Make sure you alt click on the mask, Control V, and that is now going to paste that in there, but it's the opposite of what we want. I'm just going to do Control I on that, and now we can see black coming through. Right, so all we want to do now is paint black and white on this mask layer, so we just press X to flip between that, and that's really handy because we can use it like an eraser, and you can really change up your design quite quickly. If you want to erase, just press X and draw, and this will help keep you with a good speed for coming up with a shape that makes sense. You know, is it a female character? Just adding that little bit of hair there. Change direction with the arms. How much chest, how much hips. Let's make the brush a bit smaller when you start to get, you know, a bit further in the design. Don't be afraid to not like anything that you've done. Never be truly satisfied with things for a while. Not forever, but for a while. Remember, like, depending on the angle that you're looking at this, you're going to see different shapes. Like front on feet are going to look like that. Side on feet, you're going to see more of the side and more of the profile shape. Right, shape our boots. There's a little torn bits of fabric here. Is that a dress? Is that a long dress? You're just changing this. You can try things. Maybe you're trying to work out what you're seeing here, but it's hard to tell. The arm out, straight arm out. Proportions might be off for a while, but you just can keep on at it. I don't like the dress. It doesn't break the silhouette enough. At some point you're going to have to look at some anatomy reference to get the shape of the legs better. Your brain's pretty good at imagining what's there, but you can always just flip the tones to draw a little highlight the edge. Like I say, it's going to take a long time till you get there. Now, immediately something happened there when I put this in. It felt like I was looking at the back of the character, and that's perfectly possible for you to use the same silhouette for the front and the back. All I have to do is basically add a couple of straps here like this, and show the ear here, and it suddenly becomes looking like the back of a character, especially when you add in some features of the shoes. I can just bring that back just by painting black in there again. So the same silhouette can easily be used for the front, depending what little features that I show. So I'll just do that again. So let's say this is the front, and this time I'm just showing the face, and just making that area white just helps it look like the front, and just little hairlines there. So that suddenly feels like the front, and yeah. So the same silhouette can be used for the front and back quite easily. Now, I'm not too fond of this design, it's a bit too bland. So let's try change the shape up some more. Let's see, I'm not even doing a female character, let's do a creature of some kind. And just painting black and white into the mask can give us different appearances. So yeah, that's pretty much it for coming up for a concept. You're going to start first with the silhouette. If it works, then you can then start rendering it. So for example, now I can make a new layer and then lock the layer by, well, turn it into a clipping mask, so that anything that I paint on this layer is only going to be seen if it affects the pixels which are affected by the mask below. And now you can use that to colour areas in, and a good way to do this, just lay some colours down to start with that you think you want to use. And then you can use the smudge brush to change it up a bit, using it at a quite high setting. Just to mix some of these tones together. Again, nothing's ever final, but gives you an approach or an idea as you go. And it's fast and easy. Don't have to worry too much about it. And you can do Control U to change the colour scheme here, get some ideas. Quite like this. This is turning into some sort of ice like character. And then maybe you want to use a different kind of brush to smudge with, something like this one with a bit of texture. And you can always go into the brush settings by pressing F5 and changing the properties. So use a bit of scatter. You can see how it can really get even more texture out of that. Use some dodge and burn to help brighten areas. Especially down the side of it to help it look 3D. And then I can paint top of that a little bit of a opacity in there to keep some of the tones. You have to think of it as brainstorming most of the time, that your design's never final, but it might lead to another idea. You have to let it evolve a bit before you can truly settle on it. And I'll use a bit of dodge and burn again for some bits. So the reason that's not shown much more is because there's no pixels there, so I'll just duplicate the layer. And you see it get brighter. That's kind of filling up the transparent parts, so I'll just merge them, and now it's a bit more solid. And I can use the same brush again, make it quite small to get some texture detail. Again, keeping it really loose. This design isn't never final. And give yourself a time limit of, say, 4 hours or something to come up with a good design, but it isn't like you're starting again all the time. You're just evolving what you've got there. You can easily go back and change the silhouette by jumping down to this layer and go back to black and white and take some areas away. So it's quite non-destructive. Quite easy to change some parts and add little details without having to erase and spend loads of time and start again and things like that. This will give you a quicker result without the fuss. So you can back up to this layer and back to the painting, got black, press 3 for 30%, and I can make some nice interesting shadows here. If I want to jump to a different colour for this piece, to show it's maybe made of leather or something. No idea what it is, but these little things that you introduce will help, you know, create a new look or a design. I'm just going to use the hue shift again. And use some smudge, quite high this time, a little bit bigger. You can really drag these tones down. Be very loose with it. Nothing's really going to stop me from being free with it at this point. I'm just going to continue working at it. And every now and again I squint my eye, close one eye and squint the other to see if I can kind of read something that I can't see with, you know, my eyes open fully, because I see too much detail then. So squinting your eye just helps you to reduce the number of detail. You can also add a kind of blur. I don't know if you can do a blur filter, but you could definitely group everything and then duplicate the group and then do filter. Let's merge the group first actually, and do filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and bring it down a bit. And that's very similar to what I'm doing with my eyes, is reducing the amount of information there and looking for contrast or something like that. Obviously I'd have to do that each time as I evolve the image, so being able to do it with your own eyes is handy. Okay, let's jump back to this smudging brush here. And see how I've chose to change the shape of this design just a little bit more, just by scribbling a different shape in there, make it feel a bit more like some kind of Japanese armor or something. So I really like using scatter the smudge effect because you get a lot of texture from it and gets it away from being too flat or something. Just helps the design grow a bit. So I'm just going to move to the armor here and think about maybe it's two different pieces. I think this bit here is maybe related to like a backpack, so I'm just going to sketch in white and the mask below so that we get some of that shape come back for that, a little bit here. Obviously I don't have any face either, so I'll just bring that part back and then carry on painting. Maybe I want this to be kind of reflective thing, so I'll just do something like that and just blur. Kind of looks like a horizon and the little sort of sunlight hitting off that. Yeah, just smudge, very low value. Like that. And then I start to pick some of the colours here to work with now that I've got a lot of the foundation down. A little bit of a low opacity so that I can control it. Again, the design is never final, but it's a good idea that could be used in a proposal with different ideas, or it will contribute to a final design because there's something maybe about it that you know, the customer might like or you might like in the end. At this point I'll just make these two layers the same, so I'll just merge layers, and we've now got the freedom of doing whatever we want. I'm not really basing it on the silhouette anymore, and the only difference now is I should use the eraser, and I'm going to make sure it's hard edged. Should avoid trying to erase by picking the background colour because you eventually mess it up. So good idea just to work with what you got and paint and erase. Always do it in stages so that it's easy to undo in bits, as opposed to when you undo it, it's one big chunk. So make sure to let go of the pen every now and again, just so that it updates, so that you can undo step by step. Right, at this stage I'm going to just carve away that bit that looked like the backpack. I think I'll add in some kind of belt here, like a little utility belt. I'm kind of putting these complementary lines in to help tie other parts together. So we're just trying to mimic the shapes nearby. Could be some kind of faction symbol here. I think at this point I'm going to make this look kind of like silver. So what I like to do with this is just to use the dodge and burn and set it to midtones and gradually bring it a little bit brighter like that. Get this silvery effect. And you can also paint with grey and change this to saturation, and you'll get a kind of grey tone from that. We can do that with any parts to make them less saturated. Dodge and burn to help boost and darken areas. And there you go, we come up with something that we could take to another stage, done fairly quickly. And we can just reduce this down in size. It looks like a pretty cool design and different lighting there. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it helps you make up your own characters using that method. And I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers for watching. Bye.